Well, after I did the video on the drawer slides that attach to the side of the drawers, I thought, well, maybe we should do some of the undermounts. Those are very popular. I use them a lot, especially in kitchens and bath applications. So let's go see what we got for undermount slides from Blum. Nice German company, make beautiful products. They're pretty proud of them. They charge a lot for them. But before we head off to the internet to find some CAD files, if you haven't already watched my previous video about using side-mounted drawer slides in Fusion 360 woodworking designs, you might want to watch that. You might want to watch it after this or before this. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. The other point I'd like to make is I do tend to talk rather slowly so that people can follow along side by side with their own Fusion 360 project. If you are just wanting to get the concepts down, I would suggest that you use a playback speed here on YouTube of 150%, something like that. You'd probably enjoy it a lot more. Anyway, so let's see what we got here. We're at the Blum website. Let's see if we can find some models for what they call their runner systems. I think we'll concentrate on the Movento system. So let's go to Services, e-services. They do bury this down in their website. Product database, start the database. Okay, if you don't already have registration with Blum, you're going to have to create one here. It's pretty straightforward. I have an account with them, so let me log in here. And there we are. Okay, we got scheduled maintenance. That's a ways away. Product database. Here we go. They don't call them drawer slides, they call them runners. Pretty bougie, I guess. There's our Movento. And there's our runner. And let's put in, there's our 18-inch versions. So we've got a few types here. This is 40 pounds full extension. All right, so I'm pretty sure the differences here are the thickness of the drawer box sides. Let's just pick this one here. I've used this before. Okay, that's the runner we want. Here's the download file. Okay, so there's the CAD stuff. Let's scroll down here and see if we've got STE. That's a step file. We'll download that. And let's close this. We'll go to the download folder and open that from Fusion. So here we're back in Fusion, file open. So we'll go open from my computer, downloads. There it is. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Let's see what we've got here. We've got a solid model. What do we got here for components? We've got two bodies. Is there more than one body in each of those? No. So there's two components with a body in each. Let's see what they are. Let's turn one off. Okay, that's the runner. And this other piece is, oh, that's the Movento soft close mechanism. So we've got something here. Let's look a little closer. This is, of course, the rail that attaches to the side of the cabinet. This is the back because there's the little tab that sticks in the hole that you have to drill in the back of your drawer box. What we don't have here is the clip that attaches this to the drawer. So we'll have to go back and get that. Let's close this. But notice notice something here. They've given us kind of a brick of a model. There aren't any functional components here. I guess Blum must be worried that somebody's going to take a truly accurate 3D model and rip them off or something. But there's at least enough here to build this into a 3D model of a cabinet that uses it. It won't move. It's going to be static, but at least you can get the placement and see it in the model. Let's go back to Blum and see if we can't find the attachment clip that goes along with this. So locking device, that's what they call them. There's one there. This is the fancy version that's got 8-way adjustability. What do we got here for downloads? So if we go under the CAD tab, we can scroll down. There's our step file. Let's download that. Okay, that's come in. Now we can't pull that directly in here. Let's save this first. Okay, that's going off into our Undermount Slides project in the cloud. Now we can open from the downloads folder again. There we go. Woo. Okay. Well, it kind of looks like a clip. Not much to it. It's another kind of brick model. So let's save this. Now we've got it over here, and we can import that into this. Let's do that now. Let's just bring that in. Insert into current design. Wait a minute. Oh, I see. I picked the wrong one here. Insert into current design. All right, there it is. I'm not going to pay any attention to that right now. Let's just see what we got. Okay, well, that looks functionally correct for the clip. It's got the holes that you screw the clip to the bottom of the drawer box face. Except this is for the right-hand side of the drawer, and this is a left-hand drawer slide. Okay, well, Blum's made it a little bit harder for us here, but we can fix that. So what we want to do is take this clip and make a reverse copy of it using, under the create thing here, there's a mirror command. We'll use that in a minute. First, I want to point out something. Since we imported that clip into this runner document, you see that paper clip there? That tells us that this is an imported model from another file. And if we were to go to that other file and modify it and save it, we would get notification in this model that that has changed, and we'd get an option to update it. So for this purpose, I don't really want to have two separate components here. I just want them both in the same thing. So there's a way to break that linkage between the external model and the model you're currently working on. You right-click on that paper clip. You can break the link right there. So now it's gone. Now what we've got in here is completely severed from its relationship with this other saved model. All right, let's get on with making a left-hand clip to go with this unit. So create mirror, and it wants to know what objects we want to mirror. Well, we want this thing, and it wants a mirror plane. So we can select basically any surface here. There we go. Okay. So now we've got two. And this is a mirrored copy of the first one. So let's get rid of the first one. We can delete that. Now, we don't have a lot of particulars about how these attach. They haven't included all those details. There's some essence of it, but not a lot. I know from experience that we've got some surfaces that are in alignment. The bottom of the drawer bottom sits on this rail, that surface there. The side that hangs down butts up against this surface here, so the drawer slide fits between, or the drawer box side fits in this space in here. So I know that this clip attaches to the underside of the drawer bottom, and it's screwed into the face of the drawer. So let's start doing some alignments here. We can align this surface with this surface. We know that that's true. This edge of this clip attaches to the bottom of the drawer against the side, so that would be in conform with that surface right there. So I think we're pretty close. What we don't really know is front to back, except I know that the drawer box face aligns with the front rail here from experience. It aligns with that surface when this is all set up, or pretty close to it. And if we look at this from the side, this surface is sitting too far forward because we've got a drawer face that goes there. How about this? Just for grins, let's do a sketch, and we're going to do it on this surface here. Okay, good. Now, we can pick up surfaces and points and things from the other geometry that we're going to use to create this sketch. So let's P for project, and I want this surface here. I want the front edge of that. Maybe, what else would be good here? That line right there. Yeah, that's probably okay. And now we can do a rectangle for the drawer face. There we go. And we know this probably wants a 12 millimeter. Drawer box fronts and sides. There we go. Okay, we can finish that sketch. Now we can extrude that. And we're going to create a new component out of it. That way we can turn it on and off and the like. So that's kind of our pretend drawer face. I think that's probably pretty close. We'll get rid of that in a minute. We can turn that sketch off. We don't need that. We don't need the origin for reference anymore. So what we want to do is align the front of this clip with the back of that drawer face. So let's do that. Align this surface. We'll turn the drawer face back on and specify that. Okay. That's probably pretty close. I can believe that. I think if I was going to get any more serious about this, I'd call Blum, or I might do a more serious sketch about all this. But there we are. Let's turn that off. We can actually delete it. We don't need it anymore. So that's probably the proper relationship between the clip and the runner. So let's do a couple housekeeping things here, and we'll save this away for use in another model. First thing we want to do is assemble it into a rigid group again. So here we go, assemble rigid group, and it wants to know the components, so we'll select all three of these things. Okay. Now it'd be nice if this came in as one complete package rather than 3 individual components when we actually insert it into some other design. So let's right click here, create a new component. We can give this a name, Blum. This was an 18-inch Movento left slide and clip. How about that? So there's our new component. Let's put the other 3 into it just by clicking on them and dragging them in. There we go. We can save this now. And this is going to update over here. There we are. So we've created a static Blum undermount for the left-hand side, including the clip. And we can bring that into a cabinet model and use that for placing and for illustration purposes if you wanted to do a rendering for a customer or something. So there we are. But before we do, we have a pretty odd name for this component over here in our data panel. We can change that name. If we click on this little V2 thing here, we right click on it, we can rename it. That's the only way you can rename it other than going to the web storage location where all this is kept in the cloud. So we can call this Blum Movento 18-inch left with clip. There we are. So now that's stored away and we can, that's a little more friendly than the internal CAD numbering system at the Blum website. Well, I want to do one other thing here before we move on to some other slide. I'd really like to get this into a functional model, at least partially, so that the metal frame that is screwed into the cabinet stays stationary and the runner system here that's under the drawer actually operates, moves in and out. So I'm going to tackle that here. Let's see what we've got for components here first. That's the main body there. This thing here sits on the side of it, that's fine. And this is the clip. So this is the thing that we want to try and separate. This is the mechanism that slides along. And this part right here, all of these things, that's the metal frame that this component slides along and is controlled by. So what we really want to do is separate most of this stuff here from this metal frame that bends around here. Now we've got some other components here that are part of that metal frame. Little feet on the bottom. Not exactly sure what that is. But let's see what we can do here. Basically, we want to split this. So what's in here? We have one body, and we want to make it 2. All right. So let's do this. Let's create a sketch. We're going to create some sketch geometry here on this face. Let's see, right there. We'll get this up here where we can see it a little better. And the sketch geometry that we want includes this. So let's do this. Let's do a projection of that. So we got that. let's turn off our body now so we can deal with this. So those are projection lines. I want that turned into real sketch geometry. And the way you do that is you select whatever projection line you want. As you can see, I just moused over the whole thing here. And if you right click on it, we should get something called break link. Okay, so now those projection lines onto the sketch plane have been converted into real lines. So we can start manipulating it. Let's see, one of the things I want to do is extend this outward here. So let's first, I'm going to right click and delete this little piece right here. Say OK. And now I want to add some extension lines. Let's just bring this out here. We'll come down and pick up that point there and come across. And we're done. Now let's turn on the body and see how that looks. Yeah, that ought to get everything over here separated. We're going to end up with more components than we want here in the end, but at least we've got some sketch geometry that we can use to split this body. So we're going to finish our sketch. And the next thing we're going to do is split that body. So the command is right here, split body. And we can specify the body that we want to split. That's this one right here. Let's turn it off. Actually, let's do this the other way around. It'll be easier. So I just deselected that body. So let's select the splitting tool first. I'll just mouse over that whole thing. And then we'll select the body. We'll turn it back on. And select that body. There we go. So those red lines are split body profiles. So let's just do that and see what we end up with here. Okay, well, we got a bunch of other bodies, that's for sure. Let's turn off this sketch. We don't need that. What do we got here? Okay, there's the main rail that goes on the side of the cabinet. There's that piece on that hangs off the bottom. That's part of the metal component that's affixed in place. There's that little tab we were worried about earlier. You can see that turning on and off. There's our mechanism that slides. And what is this? Okay, that's part of the metal fabrication component. So this is the sliding component right here. So let's just take everything that's left. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go Shift, click. I don't want, no, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to do Command click and select these three elements. That's that whole metal structure. And I'm going to say, what do I want to say here? Combine. There we are. Now we've got kind of a complicated toolbox up here. The bodies we want to connect are those three, here four, with this one with those other three. So we'll just do that. All right, so we now have one body that represents that entire metal structure that goes into the cabinet and is bolted to the cabinet side, and then we have this mechanism here that slides along it. It's not it's not precisely the mechanism that Blum supplies, but it's a close approximation of it. I think what I want to do at this point is convert these bodies into components. So let's do that. Let's right click on that, create components from bodies. Right click on that, create components from bodies. Okay, so let's call this one the metal rail. and let's call this one the runner. So good. Okay, well, as long as we're naming things, let's put some names on these other pieces here so we know what they are. I don't actually know what that is, but we'll just call it the side block. We know this is the clip, so we'll call that clip. There we go. All right, now I want to go forward here and set up some a joint so that these three components here actually move along on that runner component. I'm looking at this and thinking it looks kind of weird. I'm probably got the camera in the wrong spot. Let's make a it's in orthographic. Let's make a perspective with ortho faces. How about that? There, that looks a little better to me. It's got some perspective to it. Okay, let's turn off these two pieces for now, and what I want to do is create a joint relationship between this component here, the runner, and this component here, the rail. And we're going to use a joint command to do that. And we're going to use this face and a point on it in reference to this face and a point on it for establishing the joint relationship. So I'm going to want to know what this setback is from here to here. So I on the keyboard for inspect. Let's measure the distance from that face to that face. And as you can see, sorry about that, 11.15. We've got it right over here. So I'm going to make a note of that because we're going to use it here in the joint relationship. All right, so we're going to make a joint. And we've got lots of motion opportunities here. We're going to use the slider motion, and let's pick our first component. We're going to say this face at that point right there on that face is going to move against this face at that point right there. Now, for some reason, it flipped it over. Let's unflip it. And you'll notice that it's put those faces right against each other here. And they're not. They're 11.15 millimeters back. So we know that's on the Z offset because we moved it there. And let's specify that. Minus 11.15. All right, so that's where it starts out, and we've got a slider. Let's do this. Let's ground the metal rail. That way we know that it's fixed in space, and we can see that we've got a slider here. We could also animate the joint. That looks pretty good. Okay, escape to stop the animation. Now I want to attach these other components here to that. We know that this thing here is attached to the runner, so we can assemble that. Let's create just an as-built joint between this guy and this guy. And it's a rigid joint. That's good. Let's turn on our clip, and let's make an as-built joint between the clip and the runner. Rigid again. So now we should be able to, since the metal rail is grounded, we know that because it's got that little orange push pin in it right there. You can see that. So let's just see. Yeah, there we go. Now I want to go back to the original position here. Capture position. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go to revert the position. There we go. I Control Z'd out of that, and we come back to revert position. So this is where the components rest when the slide is collapsed. Now we want to establish some kind of relationship here on this slider mechanism. We want to edit the joint limits. So let's see what happens here when we put in some numbers. This is supposed to be an 18-inch joint, so we can specify 18 inches here maybe. Let's see. How about that? And 0 for that. So let's see. Is that looks good? Not sure it comes out 18 inches. Probably more like 16 or 15. Let's edit those limits and make it, how about 16? We could look that up. So now we've got a Blum Undermount slide for the left-hand side with the clip that's separated. We could remove that joint between the clip and the runner if we wanted to use this in a model with actual drawer fronts and attach the clip to the front of the drawer. But I think we've got a functional undermount slide here, and I know that was a lot of work, and it's not precisely the geometry of all the components that Blum supplies, but in terms of the outside dimensions and all of that, it is correct, assuming the Blum model that we downloaded is correct. Anyway, that's how you'd go about splitting those components. I hope that was helpful. Of course, if we wanted to make a copy of this for the other side, we could do that with a mirror command. I'm not going to do that here, but when we got into putting this into a cabinet, we could do that pretty simply. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.